Sharon, you're here. Would you like to give a call to order?
Yes.
I mean, a roll call of membership, excuse me.
Davita Beck-Taylor.
Here.
Heidi Campbell. Robert Deal.
Here.
Jennifer Hackett. Jory Lockett. Jeff McCormick.
Here.
Beth Reardon.
Here.
Jason Repsher. John Sherman.
Here.
Lisa Smith. Michael Sullivan.
Here.
We do not have a quorum.
We don't have a quorum. I thought we did have a quorum. Okay, well, fortunately, we're not voting on anything right now, but we will continue with the informational meeting.
We have a quorum.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's called mathematics.
I thought 6 divided by 11. That's
Yeah.
over 50%, but I trusted you on that one, Sharon. Well, thank you. And welcome, everybody, especially Mr. Young. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that we have someone from the Public Works Committee, especially here, to hear the presentations tonight. If you haven't been bombarded by some of our members or others about this, you will be. So thank you very much for coming. As we said at our last meeting, an important piece of what we wanted to do is just kind of keep up to date on what's happening. And so tonight is one of those what's happening meetings. Doing a check-in, you can see that we have a few different items on the agenda. We have Todd Lawrence, who here somewhere, Todd, is going to be giving us an update on what's happening with food waste. Unfortunately, the Farmers Market Zero Waste Initiative, she and her daughter are both sick, I understand, so she won't be attending, won't be here. Allie Miller, you'll be talking about giving us an update on the Recycling Contamination Awareness Project. And Sharon and I talked a lot about this last piece around the Solid Waste Authority. We talked a lot about that at the end of last meeting. Thankfully, Tara's here to give us an update on kind of how that's rolling out. I think we all know that Nashville is the financial situation for Nashville isn't as rosy as we would like to take everything that we want to do with the solid waste plan right now. Excuse me? Okay. And because of that, we want to, we recognize the fact that we can't get everything done we want to. At the same time, we know that there was a bunch of stuff in that initial part of the plan that talked about really setting up the getting the infrastructure in place, and especially the policy infrastructure. Much of that obviously will need to be done by the council and the mayor's office, but there's lots of different ideas. One of them, of course, is what Tara will be talking about, the authority, but there are plenty of other things, other kinds of policies that could be enacted that get us ready to take on, when we have the resources to take on some of the pieces of the plan that cost money. So we won't speak a lot more about that right now. I will let you know and let the board know that I did meet with the mayor's office and had a long conversation about the plan. It was well received. I think the caveat that I've already mentioned is that we've all received is that we need money. So that's kind of the big thing with this. But short of that, as I said, there's some policy pieces that we can move, that will be moved on. I've talked to some of the folks with Todd and others about this as well, and I know that advocates are out there taking up their responsibilities. Thank you for managing some of that as well, and we'll hear from that in due course, I believe. With that, Sharon, is there anything I'm overlooking that I need to say? Oh, Councilman Young? Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you were checking your emails or something at that point.
Doing math.
That's right, you were doing math. Yes, simple math. And just know that one thing we don't have on here is like public comments. We got an email from Bruce. He wanted to say a couple comments. And if there's anybody else in the public that would like to say something, in the other business section, we'll open it up just for whoever has some comments to make as well. So with that, Todd. Oh. Since we can't see the screen, we get to get up, turn around, and...
Yeah, we did.
Oh, sorry. Where are the minutes on here? Where's my minutes?
It's not on the agenda.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Oh, it's not?
No, but
Okay,
we're
well,
going...
we don't have to do the minutes.
Well, we do have a quorum, so we can take... So the minutes from the previous meeting on September 16th, the chair would entertain a motion to adopt them.
So moved.
Mr. McCormick.
Second.
Robert seconded. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Minutes are approved. With that, let us flip around, and we can sit in the seats here. So I know Mr. Lawrence worked hard getting this presentation together, so we want to give him due notice.
Do we want to move out there?
Yes. We can just flip around. You can carry your mics with you if you want.
Perfect. Because I can't stand, I gotta speak into the mic.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Try to get it there.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. I didn't need to speak into the microphone, so. Is that good?
It's good.
Just making sure. Okay, so my name is Todd Lawrence. I'm the Executive Director for UrbanGreenLab here in Nashville, and it's wonderful to be here. John, thank you for the invitation. And Sharon, thanks also for the invitation to be here and to talk a little bit about food waste and what we're doing in Nashville, at least what UrbanGreenLab is doing in Nashville. I thought what I'd do is begin with just a quick summary of UrbanGreenLab in case you're not familiar with our organization, and talk a little bit about how we are working on organics education, food waste education, but also our work with the Nashville Food Waste Initiative, which I think I've mentioned to you in the past we've been involved with. So first, just a little bit about UrbanGreenLab. Our mission is quite simple. We teach communities how to live sustainably. So what we're trying to do in Nashville is to make sure that everybody in the city understands the basics of how to live, how and why to live a sustainable life. And for us, that solution to that problem is education. Education is the bedrock, the foundation of how we control all of our impact later in life. So that's what we're here for. And for us, we really want to make sure that we have an educational system here in Nashville for teaching about sustainable living. And not just sustainable living, but food waste as well. I pulled this little quote here from the Solid Waste Master Plan. And there are a lot of points in the Solid Waste Master Plan, about 47 to be exact, that talk about education. And this is one of them. And I think it speaks pretty clearly about the importance of education as a part of supporting the Solid Waste Master Plan moving forward. Education is an essential element of the plan. A well-designed, targeted education program will inform and encourage increased use of diversion. So again, I really feel, and we feel at UrbanGreenLab, that at least when it comes to sustainability, education really is the foundation for any new tool or any new policy that's introduced to the community. That has to be there all the time. So at UGL, one of the things we do is we look at institutions, community institutions, whether they're businesses or nonprofits or classrooms, and recognize them as labs of learning. Labs of exploring sustainability and food waste and organics management. And so this is the seal that we have begun to recognize different institutions with for those who have taken a stand on education and make it a part of their workplace. We have 3 different programs at UGL. We have a Sustainable Classrooms program. These are some of the teachers that we have been teaching in Metro Nashville Public Schools about the basics of food waste and sustainability. And within classrooms, we have several different programs. Number one is our K-12 teacher training program. We do this several times throughout the year, but we also developed a food waste and sustainability curriculum for the state of Tennessee. We are exploring different pre-service training options. So before a teacher actually goes into the schools to become a teacher, we train them in teacher training school, and also different homeschool options. We talk about food waste as well and organics as well in our digital home investigations. This is where students go home and take their own student-led household waste audit around solid waste or food waste or different issues around energy. We certify all the teachers that we work with as USGBC Green Classroom Professionals. And then we're also working with... That's the U.S. Green Building Council, USGBC. You may be familiar with them as LEED certifying buildings. We're working with teachers to essentially LEED certify them as teachers in the classroom who are teaching about sustainability. And then we're also working with high school students to develop student labs of their own in at the high school level. This is an example of the food, one of the 7 elements of our sustainability curriculum. This is just on food waste education. And I'm happy to share this, Sharon and John, with the rest of the group at some point. But this is something we developed with Vanderbilt University and the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to educate teachers how to educate their students about the basics of preventing food waste, something that we are not traditionally doing here in the state of Tennessee. And we found out through a year of research with Peabody College of Education that, number one, about 90% of teachers are eager to teach about sustainability and food waste. But number two, they need the training. About 94% said that they need the training. At this point, we have reached 17% of all Metro Nashville Public Schools with our teacher training program. And that includes, that's 17% of 167 Metro Nashville Public Schools. Our second program is our Sustainable Households program, and this is all about engaging nonprofits and making civic organizations the educators in our community about sustainability and food waste education. We have 2 main programs under Sustainable Households. Number one is our Nonprofit Sustainability Roundtable, which we just launched with the Center for Nonprofit Management and HCA. There are about 30 nonprofits that are a part of that, from Habitat for Humanity to the Frisk Museum, who we are training to teach about sustainability in their frontline outreach programs, and including food waste. And then we work individually with those nonprofits to train them on how to teach this, not only within their workplace, but in the community. And then we have our Sustainable Workplaces program. And this is all about making sure that businesses are promoting sustainable workplace behavior in their companies. And so within Sustainable Workplaces, we run the Corporate Sustainability Roundtable for Nashville. There are about 45 different companies on that roundtable, from Nissan North America to Kroger, Tesla, the Music City Center, Country Music Television, a great group, mixed, diverse group of companies, many of whom have no green team or any sustainability program. And so we're working with them to coach them on how to make education a part of the experience at that company around sustainability and food waste. We do work individually with each of those companies to coach them. We also have a new program that we're just developing now called Green Team in a Box. This is for companies that do not have a green team of their own. Instead, we provide a green team composed of our local experts and students to kind of create a student pipeline so they can learn about food waste in a company context. We are working on a variety of new hire orientation training curricula for people when they start at a new company, so they understand the basics of sustainability from day one. And then in July of next year, we're hoping to break the Corporate Sustainability Roundtable into different sectors, about 6 or 7 different sectors, so they're more sector-specific conversations rather than everybody all together at once. That'll help drive those policy recommendations out of those different sector roundtables, and that should provide a more rich picture of what's happening by sector. So that's UGL. Those are our 3 different pillars of action. And sustainability education and food waste prevention education are part of our thread throughout all of those different initiatives. But one of the reasons that Sharon asked me to come is to speak about what we're doing specifically on the Nashville Food Waste Initiative. And I'll talk a little about the Food Waste Initiative. As you may know, the Nashville Food Waste Initiative is a pilot. Well, it started off as a pilot program of the Natural Resources Defense Council in 2015. NRDC chose Nashville among cities across the country to pilot different food waste prevention or reduction strategies, and so that other cities can learn how to do this from a city level. And so UrbanGreenLab is proud to be co-leading that this year with NRDC. And in 2020, we'll be leading the Nashville Food Waste Initiative, again, still in partnership with NRDC and the Environmental Law Institute. But the idea here is to focus on 3 different areas of food waste reduction. Number 1, food waste prevention. So making sure that we are preventing food from being wasted in the first place. Number 2, surplus food rescue. How can we get that food that needs to be donated from different sectors of the community to those in need? Again, we're wasting 40% of our food. 1 in 8 Nashvillians are food insecure. How do we bridge that meal gap? There are about 19 million meals, is it? I think 19 million that need to be filled. And then number 3 is food scrap recycling and making sure that we're working with industrial composters, but also community composting programs to address food scrap in our community. Again, the Nashville Food Waste Initiative, all of our programs and our strategies follow the EPA recovery hierarchy. This is something that all of you in the room are probably familiar with, but this is our playbook as well. So for the Nashville Food Waste Initiative, there are a variety of sectors that we work with. Number 1 is the mayoral and metro leadership. We're doing a lot of work right now. Linda Bregan, who helps lead this with me and Darby Hoover at NRDC, to inform and coach where necessary the mayor's office in terms of what are best practices that they can be pursuing in terms of policy and initiatives in the city. Number 2, different businesses, so restaurants and the hospitality sector, event venues like Ascend Amphitheater and other groups that are interested in changing their habits. Number 3, last mile organizations, those who receive the food that we can rescue from other companies. Haulers and food delivery services like Postmates. We've been working closely with Postmates to see how we can make sure to get food from point A to point B. Universities and sustainable nonprofits and other cities. We are also seen as a best practice among other cities in the U.S. and have been attending different conferences, including the NRDC Food Matters Summit in Denver and New York, and then coaching on the side Memphis, who is also interested in developing a food waste initiative, and Cincinnati, who's interested in developing a food waste initiative based off of our example here in Nashville. And that says a lot, I think, about Nashville, that collectively we're doing a lot of good around reducing food waste. And in fact, Denver has modeled their Mayor's Food Saver Challenge after Nashville's Food Saver Challenge. So again, Nashville's being seen as an example, I think, when it comes to reducing food waste. So just quickly, a few of our programs that we are working on. One is the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge. You may be familiar with this. There are a number of different partners that are involved with the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge. And the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge is simply a call to area restaurants to adopt 5 strategies to prevent food waste in their restaurants. And so about 40 different restaurants now have heard that call and have become members of the Mayor's Challenge. And as early as this next Friday, we are likely to have the Mayor Cooper going out to an area restaurant to highlight the need for more restaurants to get involved and take a leadership role. So the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge really is a terrific initiative and shows a lot of city leadership. We're working with LeanPath and developing LeanPath software in several key universities here in Nashville. Vanderbilt, TSU, and Belmont have all taken on this challenge to incorporate LeanPath software so they can better understand how much food they are potentially wasting and how much money they could potentially save as a result of having more data around their wasted food. LeanPath, on average, saves a restaurant about 6% in costs. So it's well worth the investment if you have the will to try it. And so we're encouraging other institutions to follow their lead. Meal Connect. We are working with Second Harvest Food Bank to grow a pilot with Tomcats to to get food moving from the food bank over to last mile organizations in need of donation. Again, this particular program is early in development, but these are different efforts using existing best practices in other parts of the country here in Nashville to move that food from point A to point B. We're hoping to work with Metro Public Health Department to train health inspectors so that when health inspectors go to restaurants, they know what to look for when it comes to opportunities around reducing wasted food, and to encourage those restaurants to be a part of the Mayor's Challenge and to adopt strategies to reduce food waste. Back in the summer, we worked with the James Beard Foundation to host a cooking competition where different groups of chefs use only food scraps to make their meals. And this was really cool. This was at Vanderbilt, and just a great opportunity to highlight, and these are a couple of the chefs in that competition, to highlight the importance of saving our food scraps and using them for repurposing them for the good. The food was terrific. I had some of it. John had some of it. Thank you, John. Thank you. It was tasty? Good. So James Beard is coming back again this summer to do another competition, again with food scraps. We're working with groups like Cheekwood to develop their policies around catering procurement, and hoping to use that as a model for other nonprofits and organizations to work more closely with their catering services around food waste and reducing it. Again, another great example of how nonprofits that don't traditionally focus on sustainability or food waste are taking a leadership role in this. Also over the spring, UrbanGreenLab worked with the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, to understand what the scope and the scope of the problem in terms of food waste in Metro Nashville Public Schools. We did 18 different audits in 3 different elementary schools to find out how much food was being wasted in those schools and what the procedure should be for making sure that food is sorted in the appropriate way, and that the food that can be rescued and develop share tables and so forth. This is a scene from, I think this is Westmead Elementary. You can see Linda Bregan there on the left, and we have a line where a sorting line where students are putting their food either in the trash or in composting. They're putting their recyclables in the right place. And then they're putting the food that can be saved, like milk and milk cartons and apples, into a separate bin for share tables or for donation. I think we recovered about 2,000 pounds of food just in those 18 audits in 3 different schools. But we have 167 schools, and so you get the sense of how much, and we composted 4,000 pounds of food. So you get the sense of how much food waste there actually is in the community.
So how was that in one day? I mean,
This was 18 different days in 3 schools over the course of the spring.
And 2,000 pounds total?
2,000 pounds.
Per school?
No, 2,000 pounds total. And 4,000 pounds composted.
And how did the little ones do with following the instructions and getting everything in the right spot?
It's a great question. They actually ended up being the teachers themselves at the end. A lot of them, in fact, here we have a lot of adults, but at the other 2 schools, we had a lot of students who were behind the line and guiding their peers where to put the food waste or where to put the recyclable food. So they actually picked up quite well. The hardest part was convincing the school that this is a priority. It's no problem convincing the student that this is a priority. And so how do we get Metro Nashville Public Schools to really embrace this? And there's a dollars problem there too, because if we're asking cafeteria workers, for example, to do more work, they're going to ask for help in doing that. So there were a lot of lessons learned that came out of this, probably more than we have time for tonight. But bottom line, the students really embraced it and they loved it, and they saw it as a way to save the planet. We're working with groups like the Adventure Science Center, and actually about 8 or 9 different groups to deliver little mini educational grants so that they can develop their own food waste prevention education programming within their particular model of existing education. And the Adventure Science Center happens to be one that I pulled, but there are a lot of groups who we have awarded about $5,000 grants to develop those education programs. And we also develop research papers, white papers on food waste and sustainability issues. The National Food Waste Initiative has authored a number of landscape analyses related to rescue, reduction, and recycling. And we're actually in the process right now of working on a community composting landscape analysis, which should come out in the next few months.
And where can we access those?
You can access them on UrbanGreenLab.org. And then we have a great relationship with the Ad Council and have been working with their Save the Food marketing campaign material. And if you haven't seen this, you should take a look at this website. There's all kinds of great posters and educational pieces you can download, including this poster, which we had on several buses in Nashville, but also in schools. And it's just another way of marketing, getting the word out and marketing the effort. So last thing I want to mention is that in 2020, we at UrbanGreenLab, now that we're helping lead the Nashville Food Waste Initiative, we really want to make sure that we move even farther than just certain events or panel talks and so forth, but really deepening the integration of these issues into our society and make sure that from day one, when you begin working at a nonprofit or a business or when you're in school, that you're learning really early in life the basics of sustainability, how to reduce our waste, make sure it doesn't go into the landfill, and especially food. We also want to set citywide 2025 targets for food waste prevention, which we are working with NRDC to do, and I'll be looking to you guys for your help on identifying those goals. We're very focused on prevention and really looking upstream. Recycling is the last thing you do before throwing it in the landfill. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about design and rethinking our processes and design well before we actually put something out there in terms of a product or services. In fact, 90% of a product's emissions are sewn into that product in the design phase. So when it comes to recycling, it's too late. You can't talk about food without talking about food packaging. So the paper, the plastic, the metal, the glass, everything that goes along with the food, it's essential to talk about packaging when we're talking about food. So that's another area of focus that we want to give. And then lastly, we're continuing to develop our grassroots steering committee, made up of people on the ground at the grassroots level who are really working hard on this. And again, we'll be turning to some of you to ask for your help to join that steering committee. But we want to make sure that we have the right people at the right table at the right time. So that's what we're doing around sustainability education with a focus on organics education. And we're just happy to be a partner in all of this with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, hang on a second. I don't know if
Sure.
any of the board members have questions of Todd?
What were the other two schools that you worked with, the elementary schools?
So it's H.G. Hill.
Oh, middle, okay.
It was a middle school. And then let's see, Warner Elementary, Warner, Westmead, and H.G. Hill High School. Middle school.
And are you recruiting more schools to do more?
We don't have funding to do that.
Ah, okay.
That was a setup, wasn't it, Jen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think the schools are, you feed two birds with one seed when you work with a school. Because you're not just removing the waste from that school, but you're also teaching the kid. You're training the next generation. They are the future of the city. And, but we're not doing that in our schools.
It's true.
I mean, I can't think of a better place to start than our schools because of those two factors together. And you could do it at a company, and that's great, but you're missing the early education, the lifelong learning piece. So, from a project-based learning aspect and a social emotional learning aspect, it's so powerful for these kids to be putting food in the right bin and walk away knowing that their food goes in a particular place if it doesn't go in their body.
Questions? So, Todd, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, knowing that somewhere around 30% of everything that we're generating is organic, is compostable.
Right.
Or in food. So,
Right.
do you have any sense of how much, everything that you're doing, and in the process of doing it, comes to fruition, what kind of dent that's going to put in it, where that sits into the superstructure of this work. I know it's kind of a big question, but I'm just trying to figure out how does we fit the pieces together.
Well, I'm going to make sure I understand your question. So what's going to put a dent in?
We know that when we have this goal,
Yeah.
going to our aspiration goal of everything, nothing going to landfill.
Yeah,
We know that a big part of that is compostable as food waste,
right,
residential and commercial.
right.
So just within that realm,
Mhm.
do you have any ideas like what you're doing? Some of it is contributing to make that happen, but also you're actually having some diversion. Do you have any idea kind of what percentage, or if we're totally successful, we're going to take out 20% of that food pie that or maybe your policy work will take out all of it. Just wondering.
It's so hard to put a number on. I mean, this is a team effort, right? It's everybody's working together, so it's hard to know how much this is all going to add up to by what period of time. But here's what I do know. In my view, we need targets to shoot for. We need numbers and targets to shoot for, and we need. So if we don't have those numbers, then it's going to be hard to know how far we've come, and what the gap is and where the gaps are. So I don't know where all this is going to end up, in part because we need to make sure that we have those really clear targets by 2025, by 2030, by 2050. Those target numbers are really hard to settle on, but in my view, and I think in the National Food Waste Initiative view, even if it's not perfect, we need to try to set a target number so that we know where we're going.
Very good. Well, I know that was a hard question to answer.
It's a really hard question. Thanks, John.
Trying to figure it out. We know it's a system. And I think something that you raised that we talked about at our last meeting is that you talked about packaging and all the stuff that's upstream.
Yep.
And I think this is something for all of us to consider, is that we don't control at this level of government, this level of governance.
Yep.
We don't get to set the standards for packaging, and we don't get to set the standards for lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's some we can do, but it's at least at the state level, if not at the national level.
Right.
And we certainly can't control the demand side for China or anybody else that's going to take recyclables. So it gets back to, so what do we control? And it feels as if one of those areas that's the ripest is this food and composting. You may not be able to control the packaging, but we have 30% that we basically know that we can generate local demand for the compostable material, and we certainly have plenty of supply.
Sure.
So I feel like this is what you're doing in this part on the food piece is, and the compostable piece, organics piece, is something that I'm as much standing on the stump encouraging all of us to really think that that's a place that we need to encourage some short-term gains in.
Well, in terms of food, just in terms of food waste, I often think that food waste, and food waste isn't the only thing that we happen to work on, but for me, it's a gateway into learning about the broader issues of waste, because it's so measurable, identifiable, personal. We wake up every morning and eat it, and we're faced with it 3 or 4 times a day. For me, sometimes it feels like 5. So the point is, it's a gateway into learning about the bigger issues of sustainability. And when you talk to people about sustainability, their eyes roll back in their head because it's such a big topic, and it's a scary topic, and it's sad. But there's a lot of really cool and great stuff happening around food, especially here in Nashville, which is becoming a food city. I grew up here in Nashville. It wasn't always a food city. We had O'Charlie's when I was growing up, and that was good. That was great. But now it's like really a cool thing to do. So not that food waste is the only thing, but it's a great beginning for a lot of people. I don't think this was what your question was. But I just
You get the root.
I just feel like it's a good place to start for a lot of folks, and it's a positive story.
Yes, it is. So thank you, and I assume we'll have you back to inform us about how it's going with all those metrics.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions? Okay.
I do have one. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that there's a couple of teachers that opt in to go through the program to learn how to teach the children
Yeah.
they're teaching.
Yeah.
Do you know how many teachers have actually carried that through and put that into their curriculum that they're teaching the kids?
We've trained 98, but there are 5,000 teachers in Metro Nashville Public Schools. So we piloted the program last year, and we just received a terrific grant from the Kroger Zero Hunger Zero Waste Foundation to help us make sure that each of the 167 Metro Nashville Public Schools by the year 2025 has at least one teacher, if not a cohort of teachers, who are prepared to teach about sustainability and food waste prevention. But that's going to take some time. But I'll say, though, as I mentioned here, most teachers want to do it. When we did our baseline assessment, 90% of teachers want to teach about food waste and sustainability. They don't have the curriculum for it, and they don't have the training for it, and that's what they need. And when we started working with schools, I thought teachers would say, no, thank you, especially because of the political climate in the state of Tennessee. I thought there'd be pushback from parents and principals, but all we've received is encouragement and interest to do more. So we can't get to enough teachers in enough time to train them all. And I think that's just something that's going to continue growing. And Turnip Green Creative for Use and TEC, they're also working in schools and doing just invaluable work with teachers. Now, I think they're probably feeling the same sense of encouragement, I'm sure. So I really feel like that's a great direction to go.
I've got a question. Can you do something like a train-the-trainer program in the schools where you can train one teacher to maybe train a couple more in the staff?
Yeah, and we've been looking at that too, especially with the homeschooling piece, but also on the pre-service training, when teachers are becoming teachers, having teachers who've already done it to come in to teach those brand new teachers how to do it before they get out into the classroom. But it's a great idea. I'd love to champion that with you if you'd like to do that together. I'm here. Okay, probably my time.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so we get to learn about food. And as I said before, for those of you who are here, unfortunately, we're not going to hear from Farmers Market folks because they're ill. But we are going to hear from Allie Miller around the Recycling Contamination Awareness Project. Allie, you're going to introduce yourself and your organization and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie Miller. I'm the program manager at Turnip Green Creative Reuse. Thank you all so much for being here and having me. I'm really excited to get to come speak to you all today. Turnip Green is doing a lot of work in the community that I'm going to touch on, but I'm here today specifically to talk about this new curbside recycling outreach program that we've just started this past month. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we're doing the program through TDEC, and then with Metro Public Works, we collaborate with them a lot and partner with them to get the work done. On Turnip Green in general, if you don't know about Turnip Green Creative Reuse, our mission is fostering creativity and sustainability through reuse. So we started with a very strong reuse focus, and we've expanded into reduce, recycle, and general sustainability across the board. We have 4 areas of service, which is kind of touched on in these numbers. So we have a shop that's right down the street on 4th Avenue, so 4th and Houston, where we collect materials that people would otherwise send to the landfill. We collect them, we sort them, and then we resell everything in our shop. And then we collect everything from basic kind of like arts and craft materials that people are reusing to make art, to packaging supplies, wine corks, architecture materials, doorknobs, anything that you can think of. So we'll collect all of that and resell it. So we start there, which is right at our top number. We've now crossed actually 150,000 pounds diverted from the landfill since our founding in 2011, and that's a big increase from 2018. We actually moved at the beginning of this year, and we're getting a lot more through our door. We do that. We have an open studio, and we support artists through our Green Gallery, which over on the side we have 167 artists that were featured in 2019. And then our biggest area of service is education, which is what I oversee. So we have education kind of on 2 tracks. So we have sustainability that we work with Public Works, with TDEC, with other grants that allow us to do that education, as well as reuse art education that we're doing in schools, teaching students about waste reduction, sustainability, where their materials are coming from, and showing them how to reuse them and be creative with what they have to do something with their brains that they wouldn't know how to do otherwise. We are now the largest provider of free after-school programs in MMPS. We have 10 after-school programs. 2 of those we are the aftercare provider, and those programs are 100% free to every student who is involved. So there are 160 students served in those programs. They come every day for 3 hours with us. They have a free meal. They engage in free play, social emotional learning, literacy supports, and then reuse art as well.
And you have a grant to fund that?
Those are through contracts with MMPS Extended Learning. Yeah, so we work really closely with MMPS as well. Across 2018, there were 2,400 hours of reuse education, 25,000 participants at our workshops. 1,000 plus of those programs we did were waste reduction focused. So those are classes on recycling. They are field trips to the MRF, the Materials Recovery Facility, where people get to see the sorting process of the single stream recyclables. They are composting classes, litter pickups, and waste reduction 101, which kind of covers everything. And it's generally for adults, businesses, people who want to figure out how to reduce their waste streams in their own lives. So that's kind of an overview of what we do. We collected over 3,000 pounds of litter in our litter pickups and gave out over 1,300 compost bins. All of that was in partnership with Metro Public Works and with TDEC for some of those as well. We just started this new program, which is, we're calling it CROP. We search for a lot of good acronyms, but we're doing Curbside Recycling Outreach Program. And this is through TDEC grant that we received, and we're partnering with Public Works that we're able to do all of this, to work on the recycling routes, to know where the routes are going and where the trucks are going to be, to have the signage and the materials that we need through Public Works. Our goal for this program was to reach residents who are not yet recycling correctly. We found in 2018, we expanded our sustainability programs by a lot. So we moved from about 300 programs in 2017 to 960 in 2019. So expanded a lot, and there are a lot of people, as Todd was saying, who really are excited about this and wanted to learn more. But we were finding people who were already interested. So we were going to schools and it was the one teacher who was already recycling in their room, or it was the one person in the community who already had a sustainability group that they ran with, and they were the people requesting programs that we were seeing a lot. So we really wanted to reach people who weren't recycling at all yet, or really didn't have the basics down, because we thought that would be more impactful. So our method for this is going door to door, and we're doing Ooops tagging. I brought some today that I can pass around them. I have some pictures too. But these are tags we'll see on the next slide, where if your bin, we go and we physically check recycling bins that are out. If there's contamination in them, they get an Ooops tag. So on that Ooops tag, it says what is incorrect. So are there plastic bags? Is there plastic film? Is there styrofoam? And then we take a picture of that. We submit it through the Hub app so that it's sent, and then those people get a letter that says, this is what was going on with your recycling. The trucks generally don't pick it up that day, and when they correct it, they call in, and the trucks come back and pick it up later. So that's a intervention right that day. The Ooops tags, we're trying not to make them too scary. Turnip Green got Ooops tagged the other day, which is totally fine, and we learned something. We had a staff member who put bulk plastic in, and they shouldn't have done that, and we've moved on, which is great. We're also doing door hangers, so we are trying to reach people who are not yet recycling. They don't have a bin at all. So we have door hangers as well in multiple languages. Right now we have English and Spanish, and we're getting Arabic and Kurdish as well, so the top 4 languages in Nashville. So that we're trying to be as accessible and equitable as we can. We know that language is definitely a barrier to access of recycling, and it's really hard if you're new to the country and new to Nashville to figure out what your recycling system is if you can't read English. So we're trying to broach that barrier. We are working specifically within South Nashville right now. That's the area we chose for this pilot, specifically on the Murfreesboro Pike and Nolensville Pike corridors and between there. The education programs that I talked about before, some of our biggest partners are in that area already. So we work very closely with Whitsett Elementary School, Glenview Elementary School, Glencliff, Haywood, a lot of schools in that area. So we chose that area because we already know a lot of families, know a lot of parents, feel very comfortable with that community. So that's where we're starting right now. This is a picture from our first day with 2 of our teaching artists who are out. It's very cold. We go out from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the mornings. So they're very, very strong.
And so the Ooops Tags are only in South Nashville at this time, or are they all over?
They're Ooops tagging, maybe you can speak more to this, across on different routes as well. Our focus on this program where we're going this little program is in South Nashville. But they're doing it more widely in other areas as well.
Can I request, like, hey, my neighbor totally needs an Ooops Tag. Can you, like...
That they need one?
Yeah.
You can do it on the hub, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could actually give you an Ooops tag and you can.
You can just write oops on their
You can submit an Yeah, you can.
Citizens arrest.
Yeah, don't take a picture from your front porch over at your neighbor's cart, because they'll be able to share it with you. But yeah, you can actually submit something online. We don't want people to get too carried away because this was sort of set up for our people and for our contractor, but actually, in all honesty, if you go to the hub and type in Oops, you'll see a case for Ooops Tag.
And obviously, this is restricted to the Urban Services District.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll Ooops Tag your house.
Thank you.
This is an example of the Ooops Tag on the left. So people will get these on and it will be checked off what is incorrect. We are limiting it to those things because there are lots of things that are considered contamination, and we don't want to Ooops Tag somebody and not pick up their bin if they have one paper clip in their bin because they thought, oh, it's metal, it's recyclable, but everything else is perfect. So we're really trying to limit it and make sure that there is a big enough error that it's something that they should be correcting. And then those are examples of the door hangers that are going on as well. There's the QR code that they can scan that takes them right to the hub site where they can sign up for a cart immediately. So the goal was to, if I don't have a cart out, we put one of these on their front door, they scan it, they sign up for a cart instantly. We found that even a lot of people probably don't know that they can have 4 recycling carts for free. They have one, and then they have a huge pile of recycling next to it in a plastic bag. So that's another thing that we're pushing to try and get them to sign up for more.
Does everybody know how to do the little scanner thing?
The QR code? I learned very recently, actually. I didn't realize if you just put it up with your camera, it works. If you can't do that, you can also go to hubnashville.gov, which is there too. Yeah. Another thing, yes. We're also putting on here the free recycling classes. So we do a tour of the recycling facility every Wednesday at 1 that's open to the public. So we're encouraging people, if they get an Ooops Tag or if they want to know more, they can go to this class. That's something in the future we're also going to be partnering with those partnerships that we already have in the area, so that if you get an Ooops Tag, there's a class down the street at Haywood Elementary School on Wednesday that I can go to, or there's one at Whitsett Elementary School, which is closer and more accessible for people in the neighborhood. Results so far, so we've only done 2 days. We did November 14th and 21st, and then the next day we've been doing them on Thursdays as South Nashville Recycling Day. The next Thursday was Thanksgiving, obviously. So in those 2 days we hit 203 residences. In terms of who is recycling, about half are recycling, half are not. Some don't have their bins out. So there's a lot of people who aren't recycling at all yet. So that's where we're hopeful that those door hangers will come in and get more people signed up. In terms of contamination, about 38% were contaminated, 62 were not. So definitely some contamination, but not every single person is contaminated. We also had a few that, probably about 5 out of those that were contaminated, and people were coming out of their house as we were Ooops Tagging them, and they were very friendly. We had a conversation, they fixed it on the spot, and then we're not tagged. So that's another way that we're educating. In terms of contaminants, there were 56 recorded. So out of those bins that were tagged. There were 56 that we found. Plastic bags and film is by far the biggest. There were 57% of the contaminants were plastic films. And then everything else was 5 or less tanglers. Those are things like cords, wires, hangers, styrofoam, paper towels, food, yard waste, and glass were other ones. But by far plastic bags.
What about paper towels? Sorry, I was like-
Go ahead, sorry. No.
It's soiled paper, so a lot of like used paper towels or used paper products that have food waste on them usually that are in there as well.
Could you run down the list of tanglers again?
Yes, tanglers are cords, wires, lots of hangers, like
Garden
unbent
hoses.
hangers,
So-
garden hoses.
Okay. You mentioned paper clips earlier. So paper
No, paperclip doesn't count.
Okay.
That's what I was saying is something we wouldn't tag for if it's a tiny thing
I see.
and everything else is perfect. But if you have a garden hose in, that's more of an issue.
The little cardboard piece on the hanger for the pants?
Yes.
That's recyclable?
Yeah, that's recyclable, just not the hanger.
Okay.
What if it's coated?
But the cardboard is coated? That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Future goals for us, so more carts.
Oh, don't give him your cell phone.
Get little pictures of
We
questions.
get a lot of those already. So some of our goals are more carts in those targeted areas signing up. Like I said, it's our first month. We've only done it 2 times, and each route is only hit once a month for once a month recycling. So we haven't been able yet to go back and see what happens the next month. So we're hopeful that more carts will be signed up in those targeted areas. There's lower contamination and more carts when we return to those routes and look at them again. We are going to return to the same routes every month. Each route is way more than we can cover because we're walking on foot. So the trucks are out for hours. So we've covered probably about maybe a 20th of the route. So we'll go back to the same, look over what we did before, and then expand on that the next time. We're hoping to expand our target area, so if we get the system down and things are running smoothly, expanding out further to ideally Antioch, and possibly into Bordeaux and North Nashville, which were target areas from Public Works based on contamination rates when they were picking up. And then waste reduction classes at partner organizations, which I talked about. So instead of only having a Wednesday 1 p.m. at the MRF, having classes closer to the places where we're tagging so that it's easier for somebody. And ideally too, if you are tagged and my student goes to the school, I pick them up, I go to the class. It's a very easy lift for them, and then jumping back in. Yes?
Because so many people commute to work,
Yes.
especially downtown, you know, a perfect place where you can have some waste reduction classes.
Yes?
Actually, and our area is really ripe for that, down at the Tennessee State, 10th and Charlotte.
Okay.
location. White Bob, and then it has a huge commuter, population.
Okay.
People that work at the state and then at some of the offices around there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, we could find somebody to talk to at TSU that you can have classes down there in the afternoon, because they're ripe for something like this.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
We can.
and then, because there are people that commute in from Antioch, Bellevue, even Murfreesboro, Clarksville,
Yes.
all those areas.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
We can touch base.
Give her that little code thing.
Yes. That's all that I have. Does anyone have any other questions for me?
I got a
Yes.
question. Any thought of having someone at the drop-off centers?
We do. We
do?
just started that actually as part of the same grant.
Okay, because there's a lot of people who don't
Yes.
understand. I mean, they're trying to do the right thing, but they're throwing
Yes. So we did this.
things in places where they shouldn't.
Yep, we did this a bit last year with Public Works, and then we're doing it again through this TDEC grant as well. Again, to reach people who maybe are not coming to a class but are recycling already. And what we found that's surprising is that the drop-off centers actually have a fair amount of contamination, which is surprising because somebody is taking the effort to bag it up, drive it somewhere, and drop it off, and they just aren't aware of the rules. Excuse me. So we're at the convenience centers and the drop-offs once a week on the weekends when it's busiest. And we've seen, what we found there is, I guess, contamination in cardboard, paper, and glass is quite low. Plastic and metal is quite high, mostly because I think people understand cardboard is cardboard, paper is paper, glass is glass. I have this other stuff that's left over. I have styrofoam, I have a garden hose. Where does it go? Oh, it must go in this plastic metal other bin. So those are quite contaminated.
Is the method to approach people as they are going
Yeah.
to put the stuff in the bin?
Yeah, so we track how many people are there, how many we speak to, because we have a lot of people who have questions and want to talk about recycling in Nashville, but maybe have everything perfectly sorted that day. And then we track interventions, is what we call them as well. So people who are walking up to their bin with a styrofoam cooler, and we stop them and say, hey, I'm with Metro Public Works, how can I help you with this today? And talk through them so that they better understand why it's not recyclable, and then usually give them an alternative. So you can donate that cooler to Turnip Green Creative Reuse, or you can take your plastic bags to Kroger down the street and recycle them.
Does it ever include that education, some education about source reduction? Like consider shopping at a place that
Yes.
doesn't give you a styrofoam cooler?
Yes,
Yeah.
all of our recycling classes and our waste reduction classes. So the waste reduction for adults, we have a refuse and a reduce portion of the class where we talk about refusing what you don't need, reducing what you do need. And then all of our recycling classes cover reduce, reuse, and recycle. And with new rules on contamination, really the best way to go about that is reducing and thinking about your source. That if there are things that you can't recycle and we need to reduce them and not just get to the end and say, okay, I'm going to recycle this, well, I'll just throw it in the plastic recycling no matter what. Yeah. Yes?
The composting, is there like a place to take composting, and then how do I get a free composting bin?
Okay, you can take, there's several options for composting. So Turnip Green offers a free composting workshop 2 every weekend. So we do Saturdays at 2, Sundays at 1.
I've been to one of those, I need to know where to take the stuff. Will anybody take it, or?
The organic material,
Uh-huh.
you can take it to any of the convenience centers. So there's 4 convenience centers, Ezel Pike, Anderson, and Madison, Omohundro, and East. So they're on the east side, kind of, and you can drop them off there. That's what I do. It's really great, very easy.
Okay, other questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Informative, and keep up the good work. And everybody, if you haven't been to the Turnip Green, it's very cool.
Yes, come visit us.
The artwork and the art openings are really fun.
Yeah.
And they really
Absolutely.
do take almost everything.
Yes, we do. We have an art crawl this Saturday, too. Saturday evening. If you've never been to the Wedgwood Houston art crawl, it's a fun time. Did you have a question? Yes, my email's Allie. I'm sorry I don't have it on there. My name is ALLY at turnipgreencreativereuse.org.
Wonderful.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you, Ally. Okay, so we're going to move from certain kinds of education around waste to hearing some serious policy talk from Tara on the ideas behind the solid waste authority. Again, this is something Sharon and I, we've talked about it quite a bit during the meetings, but Sharon and I talked about it, that this, I think we just need more clarity about possibilities, and maybe everybody else on the board understands it. I need it. And we know you needed something to do, Tara. So.
Yeah, of course. So just starting from a brief overview, you start from the premise that in order to create a solid waste authority, the rules and regulations are found in section 68-11-903 of the Tennessee Code Annotated, which probably means nothing to you. It's a decently long section that sets forth how you create it, the directors, who must be composed of the board, the powers and responsibilities of the board, and it pretty much walks you through it down to the minutia. But I digress. I won't go there for you today. It's not really worth it. To start, the county or any counties in a municipal solid waste region may create a solid waste authority, meaning that we have the power to create a solid waste authority. We would do that by resolution of the Metropolitan Council. The Metropolitan Council would have to, we would draft a bill, and from that, we would draft a resolution, and assuming that the resolution is adopted, the authority would be created. Once the authority is created, there are specific rules about the board of directors, and if you have more specific questions, you can certainly pass those my way, but I just wanted to hit some of the major points. The resolution itself has to provide for the establishment of the board of directors. The board of directors can be the same as the members of the solid waste region board. So the directors that are here could serve also on the authority. The members are again appointed by the mayor, and the members also have to be approved by the Metropolitan Council. So the mayor would appoint, the council would approve, typically 6-year terms. To conduct any business, you have to have a majority, and to exercise any powers, you have to have a majority make a vote to exercise those powers. So the powers, if you wanted to do a internet search, you would just put in TCA 68-211-906, and the authority is granted a wide variety of powers, which I will sort of go over with you guys so you have an understanding of how much power this authority would actually have, because it does. And these are important because they also have legal implications that come along with them. The Solid Waste Authority is an independent corporate entity, even though it's a public entity. So keeping that in mind, it can be sued and be sued. It would have to defend its own lawsuits. It can plan, establish, acquire through eminent domain or otherwise, construct, equip, furnish, improve, repair, extend, maintain, and operate any project it wishes to construct or operate. It can acquire all types of personal property to institute or to place a project where it wants to place a project. It has the authority to remove, receive, transport, collect, purchase, transfer, or otherwise obtain solid waste for disposal or processing from any municipality, county, the state, the federal government, or it can enter into contracts to do that with someone else. It can sell, transfer, distribute, or otherwise dispose of any electricity, steam, or other forms of energy that it can derive from a project that it creates. So in like the case of an anaerobic digester, if you were able to make energy or gasoline off that, then you could sell it pursuant to the statute. The power to enter into contracts, instruments, agreements. Again, this is all on its own accord. Can incur debt, borrow money, issue bonds. Won't go further into that. It has control of its own projects, its own facilities and services, with the right and duty to establish any charge, fees, rentals, rates, and other charges for the use of the facilities. It can accept donations. Metro could donate to the authority what it wishes to donate, and the authority could in turn donate to Metro. Let's see. Employ and pay compensation to employees and agents, which again, this is different because there would be a question of whether the individuals who work for the authority are civil service employees. That's a bit sticky. There is a provision in here that says Metro has the ability to assign or loan employees to the authority, and that's similar to what we do at Sports Authority and other independent entities that we have. So we do have a precedent set for how we would sort of treat this entity, because again, it's not going to be, it's going to have its own typically its own employees. It would defend its own torts. It would have its own representation. So this is a completely different body than a commission of the Metro government. Let's see, what else?
Who would fund all that?
The authority.
The authority can collect fees.
Right, yeah. The authority has the ability to collect its own fees, and so where it gets, if the Metro Council passed the resolution, the Metro Council could grant exclusive jurisdiction an exclusive right to control the collection of solid waste and the disposal of solid waste. And if it were to do that, then the powers that we have in the charter would be sort of usurped by the powers of the authority. So the authority could then come in, could charge rates for collection and disposal, and then you still have your tipping fees and things of that nature. And then from there, for what they would have to fund the authority.
So, and the really cool thing, and I stepped up here because I find the solid waste authorities very interesting and did a little reading myself, but the huge advantage is that you can reduce or eliminate the impact on the general fund by operating this separate entity like an NES or like a water services. And it's not, this is not like a super innovative thing. A lot of cities and cities and counties work together. I put out I'm members of like the Solid Waste Association of North America, and I put a little thing out on their listserv saying, tell me about solid waste authorities you're associated with, and I was just inundated with people from all over the country talking about how they were set up and the advantages, disadvantages, and everything. So this is one of those elements that in the plan really make a difference, because if we have the authority to do all of the various things that are laid out in the plan, we can achieve more waste reduction than if we are asking people to divert waste. So this is a concept that we spent a lot of time thinking about, that we're very interested in pursuing. We actually are getting a small grant to do a detailed cost analysis of our waste and recycling, curbside waste and recycling collection, to see what is the full true cost. Because in Metro, some things are divided up. So you've got Public Works, and we know what our costs are, but then Fleet is in General Services, and so some of their costs are over there that actually relate to us. And so we want to get a good handle on all of that so we know here's what the full true cost is for Metro to pick up. And then it's also a way for our council members and the mayor's office to look at, how can we use this information to further our waste reduction goal. And to be perfectly honest, I truly believe that people are less motivated to reduce their waste when they don't feel or understand or see the costs associated with it. And since waste is not even a line item on our property taxes, you'll often hear people saying, well, it's free. It's not.
Going back to your point also on financing, in the TCA, it does state that the governing body of each county or municipality, which would be the Metro Code, has the authority, may appropriate general funds or unappropriated monies from any other fund to pay expenses of the authority or provide for the operation of any of the authority's projects, facilities, and systems authorized by this part, which we're talking about, and each such governing body may levy a tax. So there is a possibility that you could get help from outside sources as well, and not be completely reliant on what you bring in. But as with most political issues, you would need allies, right? So with great power, we always caution comes great responsibility, and so because you're a separate entity, you would have wouldn't have Metro wouldn't defend. There's certain things that. It's
a whole nother level, and that's one reason I wanted to have the conversation. And I think what would be really helpful as you go forward with these studies is like, so how does that fit into, so what are we learning about that? And because I think we all want to be able to be good advocates for this, and we just need to have more information we have about the numbers and the money. Councilman, I'm really glad you're here. I mean, kind of hearing these conversations, that we know that this is actually, in a way, it's like requiring whoever is going to serve on that board, and I'm not saying any of us are or not, but it's another level of what you just said. It's a lot. It just ups the game, and I think that's appropriate for what needs to happen to get to where we want to go. So.
And for some of you who've been at previous meetings, and we've talked about regional collaboration. Regional solid waste authorities is something that the Greater Nashville Regional Council is looking at. You know, we have a tendency to all sit in our counties and in our cities and think about ourselves, but the truth of the matter is waste, just like transit, is a regional issue, and the more we can collaborate with the partners in our region, the better off we're all going to be. And it's just sort of another thing that is being looked at in the background while we are focusing on Davidson County. But at the same time, we're the largest waste producer in Middle Tennessee, and so we are going to be sort of the elephant in the room with some of the more rural counties, looking at whether or not they want to, you know, join up or be in a authority with Nashville.
And each one can join up by resolution of their legislative body, so it's really just a team effort. There's a way to get out. There's a way to dissolve if you need to dissolve, if you get to a certain point. It provides for it's very specific as to the mechanics for getting in and getting out and what they can and can't do. So we're fortunate in that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of being the elephant in the room, that might bring trash fees down for some of the smaller counties.
Absolutely, yeah. There's the give and take, because when you have as much waste as we have, you do have the benefit of usually lower tipping fees, and if we all work together, we could then negotiate for lower tipping fees for all. So you're absolutely right.
And I'm assuming not just on the tipping fee side, but also on everything else about, can we have economy of scale?
Trucks,
What kind of
carts,
recycling?
roll-off containers, yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, can we actually start thinking about creating more local regional markets for?
Yeah, attracting industry here specifically, you know, through the state and our local economic development offices, because we do end up having a hub, is something that I think we're all very interested in on the regional solid waste directors meetings, is how can we leverage that?
So tell me, Sharon and Tara, just tell us about, say that, you know, we're successful, we as a city, as a county is successful in actually creating this authority, and including all of us, the mayor, the
Yeah.
council. And then in 3 years or 8 years, this regional comes along, is it, would we just dissolve and then become the
No, we could just add.
Yeah. At that point, I believe they could just by resolution add
So we
add members. And
Yeah.
there's a specific condition concerning that I could find for you.
You can add, and also, nobody be alarmed. The first phase of the solid waste master plan is to research in depth some of these, so this is not happening tomorrow. And, you know, it may end up being politically, it won't happen at all, but I think it's a really important option for us to look at. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It is an opportunity for us to probably do a better job in how we manage and communicate and handle waste.
Well, and this is one of the things that you decided you wanted to do, that the financial situation that Metro's in is a plus, really.
It's a huge plus, yeah.
By getting it off of their general fund.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, if you'll let me jump in.
yeah.
Kind of to that point and some others. First, you know, I do think removing solid waste from Metro's general fund as an operation is great, because when you look at solid waste, it's not, you know, it's a service that's being provided just like electric and water.
Mhm.
It's its own utility.
Yeah.
And when you remove it from the elected body being responsible of it, it removes the politics of rates and situations such as that, and we avoid what we as a council passed last night was a rate increase for Metro Water that was several years overdue, but kicked down the road because of politics. And this and this prevents that from happening to solid waste. But then also, as someone that represents a district that's entirely in the GSD, I think going to a regional model is best, because you know, of course, half my constituents, such as myself, are in city limits of Goodlettsville and have city trash service through Goodlettsville, but the other half are at the mercy of private haulers. And I don't mean that in a degrading way. That we have a number of haulers that do a great job, but especially in the more rural parts of the county, you won't have as many haulers that are willing to operate. And so I do want to, I guess, plug or ask you to consider, as you kind of consider the, I don't know whether it be a charter or your founding document for this, that you consider that this is something that will be operating outside Davidson County at some point. I mean, just by virtue of all of your satellite cities participating, Goodlettsville signs on, well, half Goodlettsville's in Sumner County. And you think of how things like an electric power board operate with NES, they have customers all the way into Hendersonville. And I add that because sometimes it's important to think about that as far as representation on that authority, and that it maybe not necessarily just solely be Davidson County representation, but written in a way so that all the areas served have some sort of voice.
Well, it will definitely be a better, stronger entity if it is regional. I mean, without a doubt. And I think pretty much all of the solid waste directors in our meetings agree that that would make, the best scenario. Even if it was 2 or 3 counties, there's a lot to be gained from working together instead of everybody trying to recreate their own thing.
Comments? Any more questions from the board? Great. Well, that was very helpful. Thank you, Tara.
If anyone wants the section of the TCA, which again, you can just easily Google it.
I can email it to everyone. Yeah.
I was going to say, you can read through it and see the powers enumerated that I didn't get a chance to touch on, and get a better idea of what you would be looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we can all resume our seats up here for other business. Watch it, don't trip on this, guys. It's
It is.
Realize it's necessary to do what it is we want to do.
Jennifer? Came in from Murfreesboro.
Oh, lovely. So did we... You can, yes. You're going to join us? I'm glad. As I mentioned at the beginning, that wrapped up everything on the official agenda. But I know Bruce had asked to have I think he said 3 minutes or some time to make a comment. And so if there's anybody else in the public who wants to make a comment before we have any other business from the board, anybody else comment? Mr. Woods.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Bruce Wood. I'm the president of Urban Recycling in Nashville today. And I'll just bring up in passing something I've brought up before, is that we've had the same chair of this board, I think, on our 18th year.
So Bruce, I know this is a redundant thing with you, and I don't know what point you're trying to make with it that you haven't already made. And as the chair, I've heard you, and I think this board has heard you. And if there's something else you want to talk about besides wanting to replace me, please do so. I won't care if you want to talk about me. I don't want this board to have to hear you saying replace the board again, unless the board wants to hear that. All I'm saying is that if that's the focus of your comments,
No.
good.
I said in passing.
Please.
And my focus would be is that you should resign. You should say, I've been here long enough, I've done what I can do, let somebody else do it.
Take it up with the city council. They're the ones who approve me.
Okay, I think one thing that's come up is the money problem with Metro. And I did not read in the solid waste plan any conjecture on what would happen if Metro could not fund the solid waste plan. So here, coming out of the gate, we have an immediate problem with Metro being short on money, and it seems like they're going to be short on money for quite some time. I would suggest that there be a detailed analysis of that. What is the money needed for? How is that going to happen? some of the nonprofit groups that presented had TDEC funded them, and how much longer is that going to run? So I think that and what other assumptions have been made, as it was made that money would be available, what other pending assumptions are out there that, like, you know, the solid waste haulers? I think that they're a potential problem for this plan that may not have been anticipated.
Bruce, what do you mean? What's the problem with the solid waste haulers?
Well, they make basically the way it is now, they make their livelihood by landfilling. And if this plan aggressively reduces that, they might not cooperate. They may not want that to happen. I think that there was a previous plan in 2008, 2009 that was largely not implemented. And I think this plan should have discussed that. What happened to that plan? They had ambitious goals. They had a 65% waste reduction goal, and that didn't happen. I think that the zero waste, the advantage to having zero waste be the goal is that it's immutable. It can't be moved. Whereas having a flexible goal, suddenly you don't hit that number, and where do you draw the line? 10%, 15%, 20%? How much off will be allowed and tolerated? Well, I think we, basically John Vanderhorst and I, for many years came to this board and highlighted and stated what a poor job Metro was doing with its curbside recycling oriented plan and efforts, and that they just were not diverting enough solid waste. Now we find out through this plan that that's true. And why did this board tolerate such poor performance from Metro solid waste for so long? And what is going to be the resolution of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other comments?
Does this board have the authority to fine Metro or something if they don't meet any policies or anything like that?
We can talk about as for the new members who may not know, most of our authority is, our legal authority is very limited. Our moral authority may have a little more, we may have a little more traction with that, but for example, with this plan, we all realized that we were going nowhere, we as a city. And one of the reasons why, again, I'll reiterate again, why we saw this was an opportunity is because the contracts, the opportunity with the landfills filling up down in Murfreesboro and with the C&D landfill both having somewhere between 6 and 8 years of life left, we had an opportunity for the first time of the policy window, a leverage that we hadn't had before. And so that was part of why we decided we could move right now. We also had, obviously, there was a lot of changing with government and some excitement. And I'm not saying this board, I'm saying all of us, we have not been moving very quickly. And yes, we know that residential is really a pretty small part of it, and what Metro controls is even less, 18 to 20%. So we're trying to create leverage for a much bigger, to put our arms around the whole thing. And that's what we're trying to do. And can't go back and change the past. Bruce is right. We probably could have been asking these questions sooner. We didn't. Here we are. I think the important thing is, yes, we tried to put in some ways to actually make sure we're actually making some movement. Actually having council people here is really helpful. And I think the other thing is just with some new energy from some of the new sources in the community that we just heard from tonight, for example. We have some more allies out there, in addition to the ones we had before, that are going to do education and advocacy as well. So it's a tough time. We don't have a lot of money, but we have the opportunity. There's a bunch of policy ideas that we've laid out in the plan. The mayor's office is interested in hearing those. We heard about the authority tonight. These are pieces that we can move on that aren't going to take money immediately. So that's just my second stump speech. Any other questions from the board?
Well, I'd like to also point out that we are only a tax rate increase away from a lot more money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's obvious that there is momentum being created right now for a property tax increase.
And
I think it's coming.
It's probably 2 years behind.
Should have been done in 2016. but
Yeah.
that's-
So with all that, whether there are resources or not, we still need the policy infrastructure in place to do almost anything we want to do.
Yep.
And so we got to get some of that. We as a community need that policy infrastructure in place, Councilman. And this is what I've told the mayor and when I met with the mayor's office as well. So it's no secret, and we all know that. You got to have the tools to do what we want to do. And so this is the first time I think that a plan has identified some of those tools. Zach, I'm glad you're here, and you helped point out some of those in the plan. This is all good. But we're going to meet again sometime in the first quarter of next year, and we're going to keep this up probably every quarter just to keep on being educated and staying on top of stuff and welcoming council people and everybody to continue attending and advocating. So with that, there are no other questions. I would
question. At the risk of, I don't want to have a conversation, and I'm sure it sounds like there's a history, and may not be the right platform, but just if this contributes or answers any of your questions, we recently annexed several areas of the county to include curbside pickup, because I've been paying for trash on my own since I moved here until last year. And so to me, that's probably where some of the money's going. But I would probably like to talk to either both of you or one of you afterwards to find out, because we know that there's a shortage in the budget. We know that there's a reason for the shortage. And I'm not sure how this board, just me, how sure this board could address any of the issues you were discussing, especially when it comes to the budget. But just to add to that conversation, like I said, I'm just now getting free trash pickup, and I've been here 17 years. So I've always paid, and it's actually always been reasonable, and it's always been good service. So, I mean, I'd like to hear more if it would help, and just to kind of allay some, because sometimes you want to have the history on the board so that they can pass it on to the next people, because changing leadership every year, every time there's a time to change it, is not always the best thing. So we have people here who have the history that can help somebody like me, who could maybe help you talk to your neighbors about what could be done and what we could do differently. So not to excuse or do anything like it, but just to know that people are getting their trash picked up, and it's new to the community. So I would just suggest that that's probably where some of the money's going, but we're all going to have to pay more. Well, I mean, that's the bottom line. We're going to have to pay more. We just don't have an option. So, I mean, sorry. I just want to add that.
Anybody else? Well, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner McCormick, who seconded it? Demita? Second by Demita. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.